Thank you all for being here. I know it's the end of 2 very intense days, and I want to congratulate you for making the effort, investing so heavily in your career development and sharing with each other, learning from others. It's a really nice example of the scientific community coming together to support each other. You know, we call this talk within our office, "Why is this so damn hard?" But we decided we would pick a different talk. And so today I'll talk about why is this so hard and what can we do to make it easier. For those who don't know me, I'm Sharon Milgram and I direct the Office of Intramural Training and Education, and I'm really pleased to have a chance to talk with you all. Growing up, there was a Sheryl Crow song, "No one said it would be easy, but no one said it would be this hard." And it really echoed in my mind as I was thinking about this talk. I went ahead and looked online to try to find that, and I found that it actually also was released by Coldplay and actually entitled "The Scientist." And so I think that that's a great reminder that these are hard careers, many opportunities, a lot of excitement, so much available to us if we navigate the process with intention and with care. But the honest truth is, it really is quite difficult, and that's what we'll talk about today. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge the 2023 NIH Career Symposium Steering Committee, a group of NIH graduate students and fellows dedicated to supporting the NIH community and beyond, and they've been working for a very, very long time. Behind the scenes and in front of the house, OITE staff have been really working hard. Work by lots of NIH OITE staff members contributed to this, but especially the people listed here. And I want to give a shout out to all of them for their energy and hard work. I also want to thank the many panelists who are here to talk with you. I want to thank the training directors and OITE staff who served as host for sessions. And again, I actually really want to thank all of you for coming and for your energy. I got onto the Whova site and I see all these meetups and all of these discussions, and it's clear from the event just how much you all are focused on not only meeting your needs, but being a supportive member of the research community. And it's been a tough time. And the more we can support each other, the better. So transitions are never easy, right? Transitions come with uncertainty. Transitions come with letting go of something we have and know. And even if we don't like all parts of it, it's still the thing we know, and there's some comfort in that. Sometimes we're letting go of a place we love to live, colleagues we love to work with. Transitions aren't easy. When you take a work transition, right, which is stressful, and put it on top of a relocation transition, even more stress. And when we consider that many of us do that, keeping loved ones and family members and spouses in mind, and we're doing a dance for both members of the couple to be happy or the entire family to land in a good place, well, then transitions become even harder. Now, ideally, what we would love is for the transition of a job search to look a lot like this. We're in one place, you know, on one side of a really beautiful bridge, structurally sound, peaceful location, you know, and we just sort of have this easy transition from the job we have to the job we're going to. It feels lovely. Maybe there's some beautiful ducks underneath. Maybe we stop and look out and just say, wow, this has just been amazing. And this bridge is beautiful. And sometimes transitions feel a little bit like this bridge, pretty shaky. Look at that water underneath, does not feel calm. I wouldn't want to necessarily stop and look out and savor the moment. I just want to get to safety. Maybe there's ice. Maybe there are holes. Maybe the wind picks up suddenly and it was a bit bumpy, but suddenly it's really bumpy. And some transitions are like that. And the honest truth is sometimes there is no bridge and we're on one side of the water and we got to get to the other side and there are just some slippery rocks. Now, some of you might look at that and say, oh, I do this all the time. And some of you might be like me. So when I go out hiking with my wife and we hit places where we have to skip rocks, I say, oh, let's turn around. It's just not my thing. It's really scary to skip rocks, right? And there's water going over some of the rocks and some of them are suddenly shaky and you wish there was a bridge, but there isn't. And sometimes the job search is like that. We got to do a lot of things on our own. All job searches are full of stress, but the honest truth is for each of us, the stresses are different. For each of us, the support system is different. And if you take this analogy of the bridge and the skipping stones, which I really like, and I think it's a helpful one to visualize, if we take it and think, what does it teach us? Well, the first thing it teaches us is we all need to be prepared for the wobbly bridge or for no bridge at all. So we all have to assume responsibility for this search and know that occasionally or often, unfortunately, it might be across a pretty wobbly bridge or no bridge at all. Another thing is grabbing the hand that reaches out is a good thing. We have to be open to advice, to support, and to help, right? It's a good thing to reach out when someone offers to help us practice, or when someone offers to listen to our stress around this. There are caveats. We want to reach out to the right people at the right time. I think there's a lot of belief that right person is always RPI, and that may be true at times, but not true at other times. So we want to reach out and grab the hands that offer help, but we want to think, is this good help? Is this the right time? Is this the person I want to accept help from? Now, the third thing we learn is that reaching out our hand to help others is also a good thing, but again, with caveats, right? Members of a community that support each other strengthen the community, but we can't take on the emotional stresses of others. We have to be in a good place to help ourselves. We need to make sure we have knowledgeable information to offer. And if we're just there to offer emotional support, that we're ready to do that. So reaching out our hand and helping others is also a good thing. And then finally, the honest truth is there's really important learning to be found when skipping rocks and when walking across the wobbly bridge. Job transitions happen again and again. Some of us stay in a job for a very long time, but there are little micro transitions within the job. Some of us move around. Some of us unexpectedly have to move around. And the honest truth is we will find the wobbly bridge and no bridge at all. And so we have to find ways to learn from that. That means we seek support. That means we are curious about our responses to stress and transition. It means we put time and effort and practice into figuring this out and taking care of ourselves. We all need two things: inner resource, meaning we have to develop the ability to navigate these challenging job transitions, and external supports, meaning we have to be willing to engage and seek help. One of the biggest barriers, I think, to stress management during this process is that there's an awful lot going on internally during a job search. First and foremost, there's an awful lot we can't control, and the human mind really wishes to control. As human beings, we don't like the unknown. We might be energized about it in some instances, but when our livelihood and our security are at risk in a job search, it can be very hard to acknowledge that we don't have control over so many elements of this. So we have to focus on what we can control, what we can partially control, and how we're going to deal with the elements we can't control. So that's one big thing that I think is a part of our inner resource. Furthermore, rejection is a part of the job transition process, and rejection brings up a lot of uncomfortable emotions. We've worked hard to get where we are today. We want others to see that and acknowledge it. We want them to appreciate our hard work. And when we're rejected, it's hard to see all of the positive, and we get caught in the uncomfortable emotions. It's often a part of a job search, often means we have to face constraints, whether they are real or imagined, right? Some constraints are imagined, right? I'll give you an example. People say to me, well, I had trouble with my graduate advisor, so I won't have a letter, so I won't be successful. In many ways, that's an imagined constraint, right? A lot of people face difficult situations around letters of recommendation, calmly navigate it, right? But there are some real constraints. We can't move to certain parts of the country. Visiting fellows, international trainees face real constraints with visa limitations. Job markets struggling because of the pandemic or rising interest rates, whatever reason, right? Those are some real constraints when there are fewer opportunities available. Regardless of whether they are real or assumed, in the moment they are uncomfortable, and they feed into this whole feeling of lack of control. So those are three really important concepts to keep in mind, some of which I really focused on the internal, right? So that's a me issue. How am I responding to this? How am I dealing with this? How am I navigating this? But there's also a we issue. That we could be our partner or spouse. How are they handling this? Where would they like to land, right? Do I want to work in the same places they want to work? And I talk to fellows often who say, my spouse really wants to go here, but wow, the job there is pretty exciting. At times I've said to my wife, wouldn't it be exciting to consider international work? And she says, no, not at all, right? That's a we issue. Some of the we issue is the community of science, the expectations that scientists have of each other, all kinds of discussions in the community about what careers are better, best, to be preferred, not to be preferred. So there's a big me issue in all of this. How do I handle it? But there's also a we. How do I handle this relative to people around me, whether those are my intimate partners or my work colleagues or the broader community of science that sends messages through various avenues. And I want to focus for a moment around the community of science and our research groups and our research institutions. And I'll introduce this by just making a short statement that fish don't see water, right? Meaning fish aren't aware of all of the water around them. They just float around in the water. And I want you to think about that from the perspective that we don't fully see our culture. At times, we might discuss elements of our culture and be aware of it, but generally, culture is in the background. So the messages we receive in science are just often in the background, but they seep in and they make a difference. And one of the biggest messages that we all receive that is particularly difficult for trainees, because this is a very hierarchical structure, right? We work in hierarchical environments. One of the most difficult messages is the whole language around alternative careers. If you were really good, you'd be in academia. And if you were really, really good, you'd be in the best place in academia. However, I define best, not how you define best, right? Careers away from the bench, oh, those are just alternative, right? This language can be very, very difficult. There is no such thing as an alternative career. They are just careers. And if they make you happy, if you can take care of yourself and your family, if you can have the life you wish to live, then it is a great career. But the community has attached stigma to making career choices in science. And because our community is stuck on this hierarchy of careers, we get stuck. And we get stuck in two ways. The first is the streetlight effect. And this comes from a story. I don't remember the source, so I won't attribute it properly, but it's a story. A policeman says to someone, what are you looking for? And the person says, I'm looking for my keys. And they're right under the street light. And the police officer says, did you drop them here? And he says, no, I dropped them over there, but there's light here. So we tend to look at places where there's light or where we're told to look. So as you're thinking about the things you want to do, I want you to pause and mindfully ask yourself a few questions. Why am I looking here? Or why am I considering this career exactly? Who told me to look here? Or who told me this is the career I should consider? And then, if the honest truth is you think, well, the culture of science has been sending messages and those messages are holding me back, and I'm not sure I really want to do this thing I'm talking about right now, then we want to say, where should I be looking? What careers do I want to explore? And I know many of you are here doing that, and it really makes me proud that so many scientists will pause their work, put it aside, and do the work that they need to do to support themselves. So you all are asking yourself, where do I want to look? But if you're looking with some sense of stigma or shame, some secrecy, some desire not to share, ask yourself what's holding you back from embracing what you want to do. What's holding you back from looking where you really want to look? We don't have to buy in to the hierarchy of careers, that there are better careers and worse careers. We can all just embrace the concept of science careers or healthcare careers, or a decision that our science career or healthcare career has come to an end and we want to do something else. The honest truth is the only person who needs to be happy about our career choices is ourselves. We want our intimate life partners to support us and be happy. But the honest truth is that starts with us. If our PI is not happy, if our program director is not happy, if someone in leadership at your institution says something about people not choosing academic careers, that's their hang up. Really, the only person that needs to be happy is you. And unless you are using alternative in a cool way, like alternative energy, if you're using alternative career in a way that suggests less than, let's just do away with the words. The second thing that the culture drives is this idea of I've invested so much already, and this is called sunk cost fallacy. So I invested so much. I finished undergrad with a hard science career. And then I went to graduate school and it took me a couple years, and grad school took me a really long time. And I really struggled at points and I had to stay a little longer. I invested so much, I'm not going to change directions now. But the honest truth is, if we're not happy, right, it's really hard to move forward and navigate career transitions. It's really hard to wake up every day and go to work unhappy. And elements of our work, no matter how wonderful it is, will drive frustration, unhappiness. Some days we won't feel quite as appreciated. Something our boss says will land with a thud. Microaggressions are all around us in our interpersonal relationships. Work is difficult. But if we love what we do, if we really like what we do, if we find balance between our work and our life, then we can put up with all of that. In fact, we can be assertive and talk about it. We can set boundaries. We can make it work. But when we wake up and go to a job we hate every day, we really can't navigate much more than dealing with that unhappiness every day. So if sunk cost fallacy is a part of what's holding you headed in a direction you don't want to go, appreciate that, yeah, time has passed, but more time can pass and more unhappiness can pass, or you can hop on a new path and start finding a path that suits you better. I wish people heard about sunk cost fallacy much earlier. For some of you, it might be sort of a repeat concept. For some of you, it might be a new one. But appreciate that heading in the wrong direction, because that's where you've been heading for a while, just means you'll keep heading in the wrong direction. Our culture drives us to doubt our desires in our careers. Our culture sends messages that some career choices are better than others. And I think, therefore, we have to develop job skill resilience, or job search resilience. Resilience is the ability to work through a difficult situation with a calm ease. It's the ability to acknowledge that something is disappointing, or something is embarrassing, or something is frustrating, but still value yourself and still continue. And I want to make a point about resilience and job searches with this picture, which actually I took a year ago, when last year's symposium was happening. We went to the beach, and it was supposed to be beautiful spring weather, and some really cold weather blew in, and we were bundled up and walking in the wind. And I have to say, I was a little bit grouchy and disappointed about it. It was not a shining adult moment for me. And so I walked off by myself, because I realized that my grouch was probably getting in the way of other people's enjoyment. And I reached this area where the trees are all bent. And that's because there's really tremendous winds and hurricanes on the beaches of North Carolina. And these trees are sort of permanently bent. So they've undergone a tremendous amount of stress. But they also have support. There are bigger trees around them. And in addition, this is incredibly rich soil, because the ocean waters rush over the land at times. And so all kinds of rich minerals come out of the water into the soil. And so think of it this way: stress plus support plus well-being leads to stress-related growth. A job search, whether you're at the early stage of exploring or right in the heart of it, a job search where you find support and you find ways to take care of yourself will lead to stress-related growth. You will make progress in deciding what you want, improve your skills, find ways to navigate all the complexity, find ways to focus on what you can control. So stress plus support plus well-being leads to stress-related growth, or job search resilience. We need three things for that. And the first is that we need to learn job search skills. We should let go of the idea that this is just a skill we're born with. We all learn job search skills. And something very complicating for biomedical, behavioral, and social scientists is we spend a lot of time in school. So we haven't practiced our job search skills very much. You know, we're in our 30s, 40s looking for jobs, first time, right? Brand new skills. Yes, applying for school, overlapping set of skills, applying for a postdoc, if that's what we decided to do, overlapping set of skills. But a job search is unique, and we have to learn those skills. There are really 5 elements to job search skills: networking, informational interviews, a sort of special kind of networking, preparing our documents, interviewing, and negotiating. Those are, I think, the 5 key things I think about. You know, I was on Whova, I saw comments about networking for individuals who are introverts, networking for individuals who are trying to settle in the US, and this is their first job search in the US. There are challenges for networking for all of us, but really it's a set of skills that really introverts and extroverts can accomplish. It's talking to people about ourselves and listening to them tell us about them. And actually, in some ways, people who slow down the conversation and listen better are better networkers. So yeah, there's a whole lot in the culture about networking and extroverted individuals, introverted individuals, people where English is their first language, not their first language. Embrace the idea that networking is a skill all of us can accomplish, especially if we practice first in supportive environments, if we get feedback, if we grow and learn through the process by pausing after networking events, asking ourselves what went well, what didn't go well, and then choosing to learn from it. So first thing, learning. The second thing is we really need to cultivate a set of attitudes that drive a search leading to satisfaction and happiness, meaning more often than not. Like I said, not every day at work is happy. There are better days and best days and less than shining moments at work. But we want to cultivate a set of attitudes that help us really head towards satisfaction and happiness. And I want to be clear that I'm talking about how work fits into our life as well. So it's this broader sense of happiness. Some of these attitudes are a willingness to sit and be introspective, really pay attention to what am I feeling and why am I feeling that? Self-awareness, where are my skills? Where are my gaps? How might I fill them? Curiosity, I really thought this would go better. I wonder why it's not. Or I wonder why I got this feedback. So curiosity about where we're at, curiosity about what feedback we're getting, self-compassion. We have to appreciate we're not perfect. Perfectionism does not exist. We have to appreciate we make mistakes. We have constraints, right? Maybe the publication record we wished we had, we don't have. Maybe, the job we really wanted, there was somebody who'd been there and yeah, they looked at people outside, but they decided to go with the person inside. And we want to take blame. We weren't good enough, but it was outside our control. There's a huge science of self-compassion, lot of the work done by Dr. Kristen Neff at UT Austin, and it shows the more we can accept our mistakes, the more we can accept our imperfections, our constraints, the things that are hard for us, the more we can tackle them. That comes with cultivating the attitude of acceptance and flexibility. And one last attitude that I think that we have to cultivate is a willingness to sit with uncomfortable emotions, frustration and discomfort, embarrassment. Sometimes we don't ask for help because we're embarrassed to ask for help. Sometimes shame gets mixed up into all of this. We look at our record, we wish it was different, we start to feel shame. People dump these uncomfortable feelings on us by judging us. Well, people like you, don't get these kinds of jobs, right? We get messages like that. So we have to tolerate those uncomfortable emotions. Imposter fears really come up a lot in these discussions. And the honest truth is the underlying emotions of imposter fears of not belonging, not being good enough, wanting to hide, right? We have to be able to tolerate those emotions as we move forward. So not only do we want to put energy into the skill set, we want to put energy into the attitudes and sort of the introspection and the self-reflection. And then the third thing, we want to find mentors. But notice I said the right mentors. Your PI might be a good job search mentor. Your PI might not be. The model that your PI is your career mentor is really outdated. It is built on an apprenticeship model from a very long time ago. It is outdated and it needs to be thrown out. Maybe your PI is an outstanding science mentor and a lousy career mentor. Find others. And even if your PI seems like a pretty good career mentor, they have limited experience. They do not have an unbiased view. And so it's important to find others. There are lots of options on your campus through scientific societies. If you're here at NIH, that's your campus. For those of you not at NIH, many NIH folks are happy to do informational interviews. The symposium is a great way to find career mentors among your peers in your personal life. Many, many options. I think that it's important that some of those options allow for some regular in-person meetings, but there are lots of virtual options. We certainly have learned a lot about that over the last 3 years. On your campus, check out your graduate student career office, your postdoc office. There are people that want to be career mentors who are knowledgeable about a variety of careers, who have a big fat Rolodex, and who or contacts on their phone, I guess is the new Rolodex, and they can introduce you to people who can help. So we want to learn job search skills, cultivate attitudes that drive a search leading to success and happiness, and we want to find the right mentors to support us along the way. We do that, we have the chance of telling ourselves much more realistic and much more supportive stories about our job search. We find that self-compassion to acknowledge that it's hard, to acknowledge that we have a lot of hopes around this, to acknowledge that we need support. And that gives us the chance to write long-term stories that are a life full of purpose and joy. Again, there will be hard moments, but when we sit and think about what we're doing, we realize that it is often very satisfying. It often makes us happy. It often makes us smile. We often wake up happy to come to work. The critical first step to doing that is well-being. It isn't learning how to write a resume or watching a video on informational interviewing, or having someone review our job search documents. Those are important first steps, but the critical first step is embracing the concept of well-being. The biomedical research community has gotten it wrong. We send a message that people should work all the time. People come in on Monday, proud to share how hard they worked. We send emails late at night and get irritated when people don't answer them. In many, many ways, we've sent the wrong message. And each and every one of us has to be a part of changing the culture of science. Well-being means a couple of things. It means that you take time to learn resilience tools and positive coping strategies. Those are not innate skills. Resilience is accomplished through learning and education. It means you take time to connect, to be parts of important communities, to spend time in those communities, really listening to each other and sharing. It means that you get away from work, that you take time to rest and recharge, that you're proud of sometimes ignoring email, that you're also acknowledged that sometimes you do want to work a little bit longer hours or a lot longer hours, but you also acknowledge that you savor the moments when you can get away to rest and recharge. Well-being means seeking out quality mentoring relationships. I wish that every PI was a quality mentor, but I think we need to be honest and talk openly about the fact that that's not always true. And some PIs are quality science mentors, but not quality career mentors. So each of us needs to embrace the concept of finding as many mentors as we can. Short-term mentoring, long-term mentoring, it's a mix. Not every relationship we have turns into a long-term mentoring relationship. Recently, I did an informational interview with someone. I probably will never talk to him again, but it was a really important moment. And in that moment, he was a very, very important near-peer mentor. A part of well-being is healthy boundaries. When we hear messages that one job is better than another, or one institution is better than another, or the messages of you're too good to take that job, right? Or you're not good enough to get that job, that we set healthy boundaries and don't let those things land, that we acknowledge that the people delivering those messages maybe have a different view, an unhelpful view, and we work hard to shake off those messages. Overall, it really means taking care of our physical well-being, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. I think that we don't talk enough about well-being in the biomedical research community, and I think we're paying a lot of different prices for that. And sadly, I feel that trainees pay a disproportionate amount of the price. We all need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves, and we all need to help each other with that. So when we take a moment to go to a wellness event on campus, or to acknowledge that it's going to be a fun 3-day weekend and we might skip out a little bit early, or wow, it's beautiful and we should get out of lab and take a walk for an hour or a half hour, that we bring someone along, that we are a champion for well-being by bringing others along. So when it comes to how do we make this easier, it's that we work hard to reshape our landscapes, to surround ourselves with supportive people, to find activities that make this easier, that we tell people when we're really struggling, that we sit with the discomfort and find ways calmly through. I said a couple times, it's not a skill that comes naturally, that it's a learned skill. Over the course of the pandemic, I've had the opportunity to work with many folks here at NIH on developing a series called the Resilient Scientist series. We start with the first principles of well-being. We talk a lot about the distorted stories we tell and the interplay of hard, uncomfortable emotions and difficult stories. We talk about boundary setting, assertiveness, mentoring. It's a really comprehensive discussion around resilience targeted specifically to biomedical scientists. Those of you looking for jobs in the very near future, you will eventually be mentors and supervisors for others, regardless of the sector you work in. You will have a chance to influence others, and learning this material helps you, and it helps you help them. We will be sending out information about the series later this summer. We run during the summer for college students in June, high school students in July, if you know any folks that might benefit, and then we run it for more senior biomedical, behavioral, and social scientists in the fall. And frankly, it's really appropriate for anyone in high knowledge work environments. So you are more than free to join us as part of your decisions of what you will do to change your landscapes and to develop the resilience to have a successful job search. So I will take the questions. There's someone who commented, just wanted to clarify if we will cover practical strategies for navigating the career choice. It looks so far, it's just different ways to cope. The honest truth is that developing coping strategies is the first step towards the practical strategies. Mm-hmm. And I know that's not always a popular message, but we have a career center that sees thousands of people each year, and always the first step is developing these coping strategies. So I appreciate this might not have been what you were expecting, but I hope it was helpful. Imposter syndrome, I'm going to use the language of imposter fears because I think it's a little bit more of a normalizing language. Imposter fears make career transitions so hard. I would agree. Imposter fears occur in about 70% of all individuals and possibly higher. It is a part of being in really intense high knowledge environments. We're surrounded by experts, and it's human nature to say, maybe I'm not as expert as they are. One of the best things about imposter fears is as we learn to recognize where they show up in our life, we learn strategies for calmly talking to ourselves to soften them. And so I think it is really helpful to learn about imposter fears and really to understand what causes them and how to deal with them. Also to appreciate they're normal. And so they're just like every other emotion. And that's why I use fear instead of syndrome. You know, emotions are like clouds and they come and they go. And so they do make it difficult, but the more we understand them, the more we can manage them. Sometimes it's difficult to get career direction or suggestions for non-academic careers in a university setting. Where and how do we find career coaching resources as a PhD student? First thing is to look on your campus. Is there a graduate career office? Does your career center see graduate students? Is there a postdoc office? And do they offer resources? That's a good place to start. If you don't have local resources, you need to engage with communities online, including many of the NIH OITE workshops are open to graduate students and postdocs outside the NIH. I'm sure people have put out information on how to join our listserv, things like this. All right, we advertise them and then you're welcome to come. Scientific societies host a lot of career development programming. I go most years to the American Society for Cell Biology meeting because Compass, which is their postdoc and graduate student forum, invites me to do a career talk. When you go to a national meeting, check out those career talks because that gives you access to something that you might not have on your campus. And even if you do have it on your campus, it's great to get outside views, right? It's great to expand your network. There are career counselors available. Some of them have also have certifications as mental health experts, and your insurance can pay, and you can sort of weave in some mental health counseling and career counseling. That can be harder to find, and I encourage you to try to find support and career coaching on your campus. The OITE YouTube channel is full of videos, panels. Watch them together with some friends, support each other in learning more, right? There are so many ways to grow your network. Ideally, each university would provide this resource. And I hope the resources on your campus meet your needs, but we really welcome you to join our virtual community. And I know scientific societies want students and postdocs to show up at their programs. What are suggestions for finding good mentors? I'm going to talk about career mentors right now because I think that's what is most pressing today, but you can put more questions in if I'm off base. I think that attending things like this and identifying someone that you'd really like to talk with some more, generating a small, respectful, short email. I heard you speak at the Career Symposium. There were so many people there. I wonder if you would be available for a short informational interview with me. I think a lot of career mentors come from informational interviews. That's one main source. You know, you can find people on LinkedIn and ask if they're willing to meet with you as well. Some of us on LinkedIn, like I have a pretty big presence on LinkedIn, but I don't answer very many messages on LinkedIn. So if you don't get an answer, try to find an email. Informational interviews are a great way to find career mentors. Another great way is to go back to those campus resources. The heads of graduate career offices, graduate program offices, postdoc offices. You know, those individuals have a lot of contacts. The other day I gave a talk and a student said, oh, I think I might want to go to law school. And I said, oh, one of my postbacks went to law school, right? We have pretty large sets of contacts as we stay in a field for a very long time. So the directors of those offices and the staff in those offices can be a great source of career mentoring. So I think that those are some really good sources. Likewise, if there is a meet and greet with a seminar speaker, that's a source of career mentoring. Someone comes from industry to give a talk. Someone comes who's the director of a center somewhere. That's another good source. Look for comfortable networking opportunities and go and follow up. At a national meeting, very often there are roundtable discussions, people who are science writers at this table, people who went into tech transfer at this table, people teaching at another table. Go to those, right? And just have one or two questions prepared, and the conversation will just flow once you get started. People love to talk to themselves. If it feels really good, follow up and say, would you mind meeting with me again? So that's a really good way of finding career mentors. Do you usually approach potential mentors with an official request for becoming a mentor, or do you start talking? The latter. There are organized mentoring programs where you are supposed to email someone and say, I'm in this organized program and I have to pick a mentor. Can I meet with you? But for the most part, think of it as an interaction that has the potential to lead to multiple interactions. All right. So you ask for a chance to talk with them. It can be about science, but here again, I'll use career example. I'd really love to talk about your transition from academia to industry. So you meet once, and if it goes well, at the end, you say, thank you very much. Would you mind if I follow up? You might, and if they say yes, that's great. If they say, I'm sorry, I'm really busy, you had a good interaction once and you appreciate that. You also should say, thank you very much. Are there other people you think I might talk with? Because one mentor helps you find other mentors. So I don't think you usually start by saying, will you be my mentor? I think you start with, will you meet with me to share your perspective, experience, answer my questions. How do you professionally draw boundaries at your workplace to maintain a healthy work-life balance without upsetting the higher ups? So first, that really takes a lot more than the Q&A in this talk, and is a big part of the Resilient Scientist series. I should have said, for those of you who want to learn some part of it right now and don't want to wait till the series in the fall, it is on our YouTube channel. So the first, and I talk about this a lot there. I mean, the first question is to ask yourself, how much is a few days off or setting this boundary likely to upset the higher ups? And what does upset mean? If it means they roll their eyes and sigh at me, okay, well, maybe I'm just going to move ahead. What is the actual risk? Because a lot of times, some of our constraints are assumed, right? We think the higher ups are going to be upset, so we don't set boundaries, right? We think, oh, if I take a vacation, I won't get a letter of recommendation, so I don't take a vacation. I think we need to ask ourselves how realistic those worst case scenarios are. I think that's one part. But there are many other things like learning assertive language, right? Some of us are very indirect communicators, so we think we conveyed a message and set a boundary and we didn't. So there are many other skills. And I would refer you to the tape of the part 3 of the Resilient Scientist series, which is assertiveness and boundary setting. There is also a really good book on boundary setting and assertiveness called Your Perfect Right. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the author. It's like Alberti or Albertini, but if you just Google My Perfect Right, you will find it. If you're an NIH fellow, we have copies in the library, so you can reach out.